We're going to run through a quick product comparison for those of you who are considering maybe trading up from a GNS 530. You've got a couple options. I think we can show you how that, this is kind of an eye chart. We'll take each one of these. I talked about the page and tab user interface. The important part of that is to remember we can get to any page in 1 or 2 clicks. If in contrast with the GTNs, you've got this iPhone kind of icon-based user interface, which is really a graphical nested menuing system. It's really the same nested menus of a 530, but it's more in a graphical. So it still has some of those same nested menu drawbacks. I argue it doesn't make sense because you got a home button, and if you want to enter a flight plan, you go to the flight plan page, enter a flight plan, go back home. And then you want to look at the map, you go to the map page, and then it's interesting, and you go back home. Then you want to look at terrain. You get the idea. So even though these are all completely interrelated, unlike an iPhone and a bunch of apps on the iPhone that don't talk to one another, they're treating it like a bunch of independent iPhone apps. And really, they're all fully integrated. And all this is doing is adding a bunch of extra steps. Extra steps means more clicks, more head down time, and it's not as efficient, and you get your head down instead of head out the window. So big advantage, page and tab. Hybrid touch, again, touchscreen plus knobs and buttons, where the GTN, you've got to rely on touchscreen for most things, and you've got a knob and a direct button. So we think we've got a big advantage there as well. Next up, the QWERTY keyboard. We've had the QWERTY keyboard since we had introduced our product in a world of, mobile phones, and everybody's got a desktop computer. QWERTY's where it's at. The original GTNs had ABC keyboards, and I think they finally got enough market pressure that they recently added QWERTY. So they're trying to catch up from a fast follower point of view. Geofill, I talked about it, how we actually invented that concept of looking up waypoints by geography rather than just alphabetical in the database. It makes sense. It guesses right virtually every time, and it saves significant, 75 to 80, 90% number of keystrokes and clicks. The GTNs didn't have geofill. They added it with in a software release right before the GTN XI came out. Is that the XI or the G? President G, maybe? Anyway, so it's just another example. The fast find is kind of like geofill. They had to add a couple extra steps because I guess for patent reasons or something, but it was a good idea, and they thought so as well. I-40, 550, 440 has synthetic vision. So you get 3D synthetic vision on all of our IFDs. 3D traffic, 3D terrain in this synthetic vision mode. We don't offer synthetic vision on the currently on the GTNs. With the 550, we have a built-in ARS for attitude, so now we can do the egocentric attitude display. And let's see, what do we got? Airway flight planning. You saw how that worked. It's straightforward, pretty much 2 steps. You select an airway, you select the exit point, and in the meantime, you get an active preview of each of those. Before you select it, you actually get a preview. As you move through the list, you get a real-time preview. GTN, I consider somewhat clunky. First of all, your map goes completely away. So you start there, you load an airway, you select it from the list, which is good. You select the exit point, just like ours. That's good. You get over here, now it shows your airway in with your flight plan. But again, through all of that, you don't have a map. Once you get finally past that, you get to the point where you can preview it, which you've kind of already selected it by then. So I'd argue it's not much of a preview, but you technically haven't loaded it. But ours, you can preview it all through the process, which is nice. I think this is certainly better than the 530. I give them credit. It's a dramatic improvement, but I think ours is much more elegant. 2 strokes is better. Integrated Bluetooth and Wi-Fi. We've had it built into the hardware since the products were invented. We knew it was going to be a big deal. iPads are a big deal in the cockpits everywhere. The GTNs did not have Wi-Fi or Bluetooth initially. They first added a FlightStream 210 that gave you some Bluetooth functionality, and now they have a FlightStream 510 which does Bluetooth and Wi-Fi. Uh, it's an additional $1,500 option. Our Wi-Fi and stuff is included. So I think it's another example of another great idea we had that's being adopted in the market. Bluetooth keyboard, we give you one free with. They don't offer a Bluetooth keyboard. IFD 100, there's just nothing else in the market like it. It's basically like having another IFD in the cockpit, full remote control, big screen display. Again, don't think of it like ForeFly. It's completely different. They don't offer anything like that. Their Garmin Pilot has a few of the features like you see here, but it doesn't actually remote control. It's more of a display function. From the get-go or early on when we activated Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, we worked with a lot of partners, ForeFlight included. We have a software development kit that we make available to third-party app developers, and we encourage those folks to go out and invent new apps that will make your flying easier and safer. Things we might not have ever thought of. These guys that are, some of these programmers, sitting in their basement, cranking out iPad apps. So we encourage that, and we have kind of an open system. For a long while, Garmin only worked with Garmin Pilot, and I think the ForeFlight market pressure caused them at some point to decide to go ahead and do that, even though ForeFlight and Garmin Pilot provide the same function. There's a big community of Garmin Pilot guys, but there's a bigger community, I believe, of ForeFlight guys, and so they kind of were forced to do that. But they don't really have any other compatibility. They're fairly close, so I think we got an open system that's a little more friendly in the market. And finally, I mentioned the plug and play, slide-in replacement. The way I like to think of this, I think I heard one number of the 100,000 GNS units were sold. We see every one of those GNS 530 and 430s as a pre-wired socket that you can pull out that old box and plug in a brand new box and get all this cool new features, touch screen, synthetic vision, without even changing any of the wiring. And I kind of equate it to a simplest form is unscrewing an incandescent light bulb and screwing in an LED bulb with more fuel efficiency, more lumens, and all those good things. So that's very simplistic, but you get the idea. You've already got a 530, you've already got a pre-wired socket. You plug one of these babies in with very little install cost.